welcome to another episode of the Flashback Cartoon Hour. I'm your loving bald host with the most from coast to coast, Nick the Niz Lascola. And here with me today is...
your co-host and the man who's not going to have a thing to insert here.
the beautiful Gabe. And today we have the pleasure of going over the animated series, The Magic School Bus.
Seatbelts, everyone! Please let this be a normal field trip. With a friend? No way!
Cruising on down Main Street, you're relaxed and feeling good. Next thing that you know, you're seeing octopus in the neighborhood, surfing on a soundwave, swinging through the stars. Take a left at Human Testing, take your second right past Mars on the Magic School Bus. Alligator nostril, climb on the Magic School Bus. Make a plane turn two.
Take that!
On our Magic School Bus. Drop the river of lava. On the Magic School Bus. Such a fine thing to do.
The Magic School Bus is an animated educational children's television series based on the books of the same name by Joanna Cole and Bruce Deegan. The series received critical acclaim for its use of celebrity voice talents in combining entertainment with an educational series. The show was a collaborative effort between the United States and Canada. It was produced by Scholastic Entertainment, which is an American company, and Nelvana, which is a Canadian animation studio. Gabe, welcome to the show. This is your very first time on the show. I've wanted you on the show for a while. And you got to pick the series we covered today, and kind of interesting, but I was pretty excited to get into it. I'm not gonna lie.
Here's the thing: is I don't really like to reminisce much. I'm not a reminiscing guy.
Yeah.
It's not something I do. But there are some things, that I can't help myself with when they're just so fundamentally ingrained. The school bus is one of those things, and I there are parts of Magic School Bus that have and still do live, rent-free in my brain, and they always have. So it's something that was interesting to go back and watch again.
Yeah, it was cool. It's cool to look at it from an adult perspective and just how zany they are. Because, even as a kid, you knew Miss Frizzle was a nutcase, but,
Yeah, I gotta say, I went back and a lot of it was just as I remembered. There were scenes that I remember and I was looking for, and there they were, and it was just like that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into it a little bit. The series ran in America on the PBS network from September 10th, 1994 to December 6th, 1997. This was for a total of 4 seasons and 52 episodes. Usually each episode had a runtime of about 26 minutes.
That's very long. I went back to watch the series.
It stretched on.
I did not watch every episode. I just couldn't,
I only made it through season 1.
I selected a bunch of episodes throughout all the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I got a good sampling, I think. 20 minutes is a long time, and it could have been shorter.
Oh, no,
but,
for
it is
sure.
what it is. And you know what? The fact that I remember it so well in my head, it speaks to it. So maybe they needed the 20 minutes to let us digest things a little bit.
Exactly. The theme song, called Ride on the Magic School Bus, was written by Peter Lorre and performed by famous musical act Little Richard. The series has been nominated for 11 different awards and has won 3 of these nominations. 2 of these awards were for the Environmental Media Awards, and the first one in 1995 for Season 1, Episode 6, Meets the Rot Squad, and again for 1997 for Season 3's Episode 13's The Family Holiday Special. I didn't get to see the Family Holiday Special, but I did see Meets the Rot Squad. That's when they go inside the log, the dead log. I can't remember if it's Dorothy or if it's Phoebe. One of the two of them wants to get rid of the log because she wants to build some kind of store or something. I can't remember, but they were like, no, they shrink down, they go inside the log, that becomes their field trip for the day, and they realize that like the log is actually a house for all these bugs and going into that kind of stuff. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you were mentioning awards, and the voice actor Miss Frizzle, who's a famous comedian, Lily Tomlin, or Tomlin, I don't know how to pronounce
It's Tomlin.
that.
No, you're right.
Okay, Lily Tomlin she won a Daytime Emmy Award for playing Miss Frizzle, which is pretty notable for this, kids show, this small kids show.
Yeah, I was a little
It's from
confused on
Scholastic.
that. So they claimed that the Magic School Bus won 3 awards, but this was technically Lily Tomlin's Daytime Emmy Award. So does it count toward the Magic School
I
Bus, or
believe
is it
so.
just toward
I believe
Lily?
the Magic School Bus is also winning an award.
Mhm.
If somebody wins an award for their role in that, I think it's I could be wrong about that.
No,
actually.
interesting. The series currently holds a 7.8 out of 10 stars on IMDb, placing it on a higher ranking than many other children's series, such as Blue's Clues, Curious George, Little Bear, Dragon Tales, Franklin, Arthur, and this one threw me for a loop. It had a higher rating than Rugrats. Like, all the other ones kind of make sense, right? They're all good shows. The only other one I would say really would be a competition is clearly Blue's Clues or Arthur. Like, the other ones are iconic. They're just not, like, as memorable as those. It was, like, always Arthur, Blue's Clues, and the Magic School Bus when you think of, like...
It's universally known that Magic School Bus is
The-
certified based, for sure.
Yeah. It is the cartoon that schools want to show you for all time when the teachers are probably just hungover and don't want to teach for the day.
And you know what? You're going to learn something.
You are, dude. I learned some things. As a gesture to commemorate 25 years of zany scientific adventures, an actress dressed as Miss Frizzle rang the closing bell at NASDAQ market site in Times Square on October 17th, 2011. The child actors who voiced the students were recorded in Toronto, whereas Lily Tomlin and Malcolm Jamal Warner were both recorded in Los Angeles and New York. So the kids never actually got to meet Miss Frizzle in person. They recorded in completely different countries.
I mean, yeah.
That's fucking wild, dude. So you just had Lily Tomlin being a ruckus by herself. They didn't want her to scare the children, I guess. Danny Tamborelli, also known as the voice actor for Arnold, provided the voice of Ralphie for 2 lines in the episode Makes a Stink, and also in the episode Getting Energized. And Phoebe's voice can be heard on Dorothy Ann when falling into the river of that same episode. It's just fun little animation flubs that we like to point out here on the Flashback
I
Cartoon
feel like
Hours.
they're all over.
Yeah,
the series.
we were watching this. I showed Gabe and his wonderful wife the fan theory about the doppelgangers that on the Magic School Bus that I had found.
Oh man.
And they had pointed out some animation flubs of them being inside Arnold's body, but when they panned throughout the bus, Arnold was in the bus with the students. Just fun animation things we like to point out. Another thing, at the end of each episode, there is a quote-unquote producer says segment when kids usually call into a fictional office to ask the producers questions about the episode that just ran. There is a boy producer and a girl producer that usually switch off answering the phone in the kids' questions about inaccuracies that had occurred during the episode that you had just watched. On occasion, different characters from the episode would replace the producers answering the phone, especially if it had been a celebrity voice actor in that episode. Fun fact, though, these producers we see are actually fictional characters and are not the real producers or executive producers of the show, which I did my research into looking that out. I really thought it was like the actual producers being like, hey, guys, don't be little shits and stop asking too many questions.
Yeah, and as kind of tacked on as this producer bit seems at the end, and as much as people might not like it, I feel like it's one of the things that makes the show so great. Is at the end they kind of have a little moment where they just want to help digest and kind of pick between what's, real and what's not real, and kind of establish that we know that this is a kids show.
Yeah.
That we're showing you.
When the show was syndicated and began airing on commercial networks, a tweak had to be made in order to make room for commercials, so the producer says segments were cut. The episode Kicks Up a Storm shows the final appearance of the female producer, as she wasn't a popular character. That's the last episode of season 1.
They were like, I'm sorry, we're going to have to let you go.
Yeah, they're
Your
like,
ratings are just,
the lizard's doing better than you. Perhaps the only cast member as iconic as the zany Miss Frizzle, with her crazy wardrobe and insatiable sense of adventure, was her partner in crime, Liz the Lizard. Liz is a species known as the Jackson's chameleon. The illustrator chose this species because it was the weirdest looking one he had ever seen, and it's easy to see that the three-horned lizard looks like a unique relative of the Triceratops rather than your average lizard. Fun fact though, even though it is stated that Liz is indeed a female, her design is based off the male of that species. This is because female Jackson chameleons do not have horns on their head like the males do.
I wonder if that was mentioned in one of the producer segments there.
If they pointed out,
hey, you said she's a girl, but the boys don't have. Oh yeah, you got us.
Okay, you got me. We just fudged it.
Okay, so for our next segment, why don't we go into the voice actors? And I'll start off with the wonderful, crazy, beautiful Ms. Valerie Frizzle, voiced by Lily Tomlin. Lily is an American actress, stand-up comedian, writer, singer, and producer. Apart from Ms. Frizzle, she also gained success from roles such as Deborah Fitterer for 35 episodes in the series West Wing, Kay Carter Shepley for 46 episodes in the series Murphy Brown, Frankie Bergstein in all 94 episodes of Grace and Frankie, Lena Reese in the 1975 movie Kansas, and even lent her voice as May Parker in the 2018 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Lily Tomlin actually has received many awards by herself. 7 Emmys, 2 Tonys, a Grammy, and she won the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award.
Oh shit!
Yeah, which is kind of notable. Lily Tomlin is actually 1 Oscar away from the Triple Crown in acting and an EGOT. So all she needs is to be in a movie, maybe, and she can fill that in.
That's fucking awesome,
notable,
dude.
yeah.
She's as badass as Miss Frizzle.
Well, yeah. She's a very notable comedian, and she's been in a lot of things, and she's done a lot of things.
Well, you know what the funny thing is? I've seen her face. I've known the actress. I knew the name Lily Tomlin. And I knew her from Grace and Frankie. I've always seen, I never watched that show, but I've seen like the trailers. I look at me trying to defend myself. I didn't know that was Miss Frizzle until I did the research for this show. And like me sitting there and like everything getting unlocked in my like subconscious that like this was Lily Tomlin and Miss Frizzle and it's all the same, and I was like, holy fucking shit, dude.
She's been a comedian for a long time, and she's done not some so great things. She did almost blackface. She had a character called Purvis Hawkins, and that was popularized in everybody's favorite show SNL, and it wasn't, people said, oh, it wasn't really blackface. She did use, didn't really have the makeup, but, I didn't watch it. So
With the highs come the lows.
Yeah. Oh, I want that on the record.
Yeah, you're not getting away with that, Lily. We have to point out your shortcomings. All right, now let's beat up on Arnold, shall we? Arnold Perstein, voiced by Amos Crowley in Season 1 and Danny Tamborelli in Seasons 2 to 4. Amos Crowley has also lent his voice to characters such as Moose in the 1997 series Franklin, Owl in the 1995 series Little Bear, A in the 2018 series Bakugan Battle Planet, Muth in the 2015 series Bay Warriors, Bay Raiders, Martin the Warrior in the 1999 series Redwall, and as Russell in the 1996 series Sticking Around. Danny Tamborelli gained stardom in the 90s for his portrayal of Little Pete in the 1992 Nickelodeon series The Adventures of Pete and Little Pete, and for being a cast member on the Nickelodeon sketch comedy series All That for seasons 4 to 6. And so he's who took over in season 2.
Timberelli also, notably, he was in the Mighty Ducks. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie.
Right. Yes, dude. Of course. I hope people remember the Mighty Ducks. Next, let's go into Carlos Ramon, voiced by Daniel DeSanto. Carlos is my boy. I just want to, before we go into the voice actor, I just want to say him as a character is my boy. He cracks the worst jokes, but they're very similar to really bad jokes, especially any fans of this show know I make these bad jokes all the time. So all his dumb jokes were right up my alley. It had me laughing my ass off numerous times. Okay, so
he gets a lot of work, that guy.
Yeah.
DeSanto.
Daniel also gained fame for roles such as Tucker for 65 episodes of the Nickelodeon series Are You Afraid of the Dark? Brock Layton in the 2001 Fox Family series Braceface. Ray Khan in the 2002 anime Beyblade. Blaine in 6 episodes of the 2006 series Totally Spy. And as Dave in the 2014 series Total Drama Pakatu Island.
I remember Totally Spies, and I kind of remember that guy in Totally Spies, so there's that. He gets a lot of work. I wouldn't say I remember him from anything, but
it's really he gets a lot of work, but it's a lot of, like, other than what I just mentioned, it's a lot of one-off characters. A lot of these guys that we mentioned today actually have a lot of, like, they voiced this guy for one episode in that show, or they voiced that person for 2 episodes in that show. They're not like a lot of main characters that, like, stick around for a while.
Yeah, but this guy, Daniel DeSanto, I feel like he gets a lot of work, and he gets a lot of consistent work. When I remember looking him up, I feel like he was not just getting sporadic work, but he was in a lot of, like, much smaller things. Like, he voiced that voice in Beyblade. A lot of work like that, where it's like, okay, this isn't, he did.
Yeah. Beyblade didn't last that many seasons, but he was a main character in that series. No, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah. Okay, so next we have Dorothy Ann Hudson, voiced by Tara Mayer. She played the role of Sally Potts for 13 episodes of the live-action 1990 series of Von Leah. She also lent her voice to the character of Sally Cat in the 1993 animated series The Busty World of Richard Scarry.
So Keisha in the series, we've been naming a lot of people and kind of throwing out names, but these, except for Miss Frizzle, who is Lily Tomlin, we've been naming the classmates, just all of the kids in the classroom, boys and girls.
The main characters of the series.
Yeah, Keisha is voiced by Erica Luttrell, and she notably plays the voice of Sapphire in Steven Universe, which is one of my top shows. I love that show, like, a lot.
Yes,
so.
Dude.
When I saw that, I was like, no shit. Yeah. That's Sapphire. Whoa.
The minute I was reading this too, I was like, I hope Gabe was the one who talks about this part when we go over the show. Because I was like, oh, Steven Universe, Gabe. Because between me and you, anytime, because we've watched all those episodes back in the day together, anytime I see that series now, I associate it with you.
Yeah. Great show. The first episode with Sapphire is a fantastic episode. So, it's good to see.
Who is Sapphire in that series? Is she an important character?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sapphire is an important character in that show.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't really want to dive into it much.
No, to ruin anything else.
Yeah, but a very notable character, a very popular character, and I feel like that's the way it is for a lot of characters in that show. It's like those characters aren't one-off characters in Steven Universe in general.
Yeah, because they really put a lot of meaning and
they stick around.
That's
everyone
cool.
in that show, kind of sticks around.
They play an important part. She also plays Cheetah and Martha Kent in the 2014 animated movie JLA Adventures Trapped in Time. She plays Mercy Graves in both DC animated movies The Death of Superman and The Reign of Superman. Mercy Graves, for any of our fans who listen to the Superman the Animated Series episode, would know that is Lex Luthor's right-hand henchwoman. She also played Axa from season 3 onward in the 2017 Netflix series Voltron Legendary Defender.
Yeah, and Luttrell has also been in played the voices in some really popular video games. Also, she played I haven't played any of these video games, so I don't know the character she played in them. But she was in Modern Warfare 3. She was played a voice in The Last of Us Part 2, as well as the Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy 7 remake that they're splitting into multiple games.
Yes.
Yeah, she plays a voice in there somewhere.
In the new remake, so she wasn't in the original version, though.
No, she wasn't. No, yeah. So in the remake, she plays in the English, I guess, dub. She plays a voice. Obviously.
She's voicing someone in Japanese.
She studied for this role.
Remember me? I was Keisha.
Yeah, Keisha is one of the major classmates in this. I feel like in the show, she's always the one who's
level-headed.
No, always the one who's like, I don't believe you on that. You
calls bullshit.
Yeah, calls bullshit all the time. And then sometimes in some episodes she's right, and in some episodes she's wrong.
Yeah,
that's what I really appreciate about Keisha. She's like, you know what? I'm still gonna call bullshit, even though I could be right or wrong here.
Yeah, it's a 50-50.
This is not. Something's not adding up in my head, and you better explain,
Which is perfect, because usually then they go into a really deep, detailed...
Yeah, it's what the episode's about, is Keisha explain. One of my favorite episodes is the pickle episode, and we'll get into that, but she's the driving force in that whole episode.
Yeah. Oh, she always said, what's her catchphrase? Let's hear the facts, or let's review the facts, or something like that. And then she usually pulls down a little and she'll go over 3 things you'll learn throughout the episode. All right, so next we have Phoebe Teresi, voiced by Maya Fuller. Maya would quit acting and become a writer for a few different television series, with her only other credited voice acting as Julia in the 1999 animated series New Tales from the Crypt Keeper. So one thing is New Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Jesus, why can I not say that?
Crypt Keeper?
Yes. And there was
Crypt Keeper. Say it 3 times fast.
Crypt Keeper. What the fuck? Crypt Keeper. Crypt Keeper. Crypt Keeper. Crypt Keeper. Crypt Keeper. Crypt Keeper. There it is. There was another series called Sticking Around. A lot of the kids that we mention in this series, the whole class, they voice characters on all 3 of these shows. But then again, a good chunk of the kids didn't really do much after that. Next is Ralphie Tonelli, voiced by Stuart Stone. Stuart is also known for his role as Roland Fisher in the 2001 film Donnie Darko. He is also the voice of both main characters Carl Crashman and C2 in the 2005 Canadian animated series Carl Squared.
You just call him Roland? It's Ronald.
Did I call him Roland?
You said Roland, I think. Maybe I'm mishearing that.
Okay, just to be safe.
It's the guy. It's his friend. His friend in no, don't you go back cutting this to make yourself to sweep up your mistake, okay? We could both be wrong. Maybe it is Roland. I wrote it down as Ronald also. It looks like we both wrote it down as Ronald. It's going to turn out that you secretly knew that we both wrote it down wrong.
I just like that you were like, no, you own your mistake. Kelsey's a big fan of that. That's what she tells her students, that she encourages mistakes. You know who else does it? Miss Frizzle.
Yeah.
Full circle, buddy. We just brought it back. Well, what's her 3 famous rules? Ask questions, get messy, make mistakes, ask questions, and get messy.
Ask questions, make mistakes, and get messy.
Yes, ask questions, make mistakes, and get messy. I like it.
I think.
I want to get that
Man,
tattooed
I can't believe I can't remember.
on my ass cheek. Okay, so next is Tim Wright, voiced by Max Becker in season 1, and Andre Otley Laurent in seasons 2 to 4. Not much could be found on either of these actors except for a 1-episode role in Goosebumps for Andre Otley Laurent. Both these guys didn't really do much, which is sad because I liked him a lot. He's the artist of the group. My favorite is and I'll go into this later, but that's the Seed episode where he literally spends all this time and he bangs out a picture of a flower and he puts it in the ground, and they're like, that's great and all, but we actually need a real flower. And mind you, they're standing there waiting for the magazine to come take a picture of their wonderful garden. So they were expecting these people to show up, and they needed to have a specific flower there that they just didn't grow. Next is Wanda Lee, voiced by Lisa Yamanaka. Lisa is known for voicing the character Sherry Birkin in the 1998 video game Resident Evil 2. She also voiced the childlike Empress in Junior Rockbiter for 13 episodes of the 1995 HBO animated series The Neverending Story. Brittany Murphy for 31 episodes in the series The Busty World of Richard Scarry, and Yoko for 26 episodes of the 2000s animated series Timothy Goes to School. So a lot of other kid shows. And last, there were many different celebrities who lent their voices to the Magic School Bus. These include such talents as Malcolm Jamal Warner, who was Theodore Huxtable on The Cosby Show.
Yeah, and he also starred in his own show. And
I was just trying to say like what people might most know them for. Like,
fair.
So Susan Blue, who played RC from the Transformers, Dolly Parton, famous singer, Eartha Kitt, famous actress known for playing one of the versions of Catwoman. I think she was the third Catwoman in the 1966 Adam West series. Ed Asner, another voice talent. Dom DeLuise, very famous comedian, voice talent. He was the big fat black cat in American Tail, the Feifel with the mouse. He was also in the Dexter's episode that me and Tony just went over. He was the character Goosela Goop Goop, Dee Dee's imaginary friend, who comes back in a few different episodes. We also have Dan Marino, famous quarterback. We have Alex Trebek from famous host of Jeopardy. Tony Randall, who played Felix Unger in The Odd Couple. That's a big show from like our parents' time. For people who don't know, we're in our 30s, so
you have no idea how old my parents are.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Well, I would assume they would still know who The Odd Couple was. Cindy Williams, who was Shirley Feeney on Laverne and Shirley, another famous show, a spinoff of Happy Days.
Yeah, and as great as these guys all did a very good job. I think for the voice acting, it was great for a kids show, and they were really emphatic, and they really got into their lines, and especially for being kids, a lot of them.
Yeah.
It was a good job, and obviously the characters themselves are really well written, for a kids show. Like
Kids show, there's
a lot of each one is they kind of everything they say and everything they do is kind of like a part of what that kid is.
Yeah. How many times do you hear Phoebe go in my old school? And that actually got a little.
Well, yeah, no, and also I just mean a lot of the episodes are driven by for instance, Phoebe being sad, the poor animals in the desert,
and she wants to help them.
Yeah. And the writers, of course, are the creators, Joanna Cole and Bruce Deegan. They were the ones who originally did the books, which came out 10 years earlier, for Magic School Bus. And then there's also the person credited also as for the show, I think specifically, is Christian Lascas Martin. And that is also a creator on Cyberchase. I don't know if you've seen that PBS show before or remember it at all.
Is that what the little bird thing?
That's with Gilbert Gottfried as the bird, the little bird, and Christopher Lloyd as Hacker.
So
like
that was
guy.
was definitely, I want to say that was well after my time.
Yeah, it was a little bit later.
Yeah, so I know of it. I've definitely seen it on like YouTube clips of people talking about different, like it's popped up.
Yeah.
I know of the show. I never sat down and actually watched it or know any of the characters or plot of the series.
Yeah,
Are they in the internet? Is that why it's called Cyberchase? At first,
you
I
ask
thought
too
you
many
meant
questions.
I thought you meant the Scooby Doo movie at
They're
first.
in a cyber world.
I
That's
was
all you
like,
need to know.
Scooby Doo, bro. Fucking
No,
yeah,
no,
dude.
it's
Yeah.
yep, you got it. It has the bird who's Gilbert
Yeah.
Gottfried,
Yep.
and it was notably like those characters.
But I mean, to go from this to that, because I do know that like that's a really well received kids series. Was Cyberchase. So to have two bangers under your belt like that is, I mean, in and of itself,
there were a lot of the people who worked on Magic School Bus also worked on Cyberchase because it was, it's. That type of show, I guess, because Cyberchase was also like an educational program. It was
yeah.
So like the director,
edutainment, as they like
the
to call
director
it.
Larry Jacobs, who is also director of Cyberchase, was director of many episodes on of Magic School Bus. He was also director of Johnny Test. I don't know if you remember that show.
Oh, of course, yeah. No, I definitely remember Johnny Test. I watched a lot of it.
He also directed Bob the Builder.
Wow.
Yeah, that was another notable thing that he did. Yeah. And also somebody who helped direct maybe a couple episodes of Magic School Bus, but also was a big storyboard artist for Magic School Bus and other shows like I guess he did Paw Patrol as Charles E. Bastian. He's one of the people who's credited as being one of the main people for Magic School Bus as well.
Yeah, it's always great. I love learning what shows came out of what shows and like the connection between the shows and like who worked on this to go work on that and what they bring to the table. Paw Patrol, that's crazy. They just came out with a movie. So now all the notes and stuff are done. We can really go into our opinions. This is my personal favorite part of the show. So let's start off, Gabe, on a scale from F to A+. What would you rate this series overall?
What is your rubric here? I don't.
So I guess because we're adults, this is a podcast more for adults, so I guess we're more looking at the series. If our fan base is going to go back and they're not parents, that means they're most definitely stoners that are probably going to go watch this show. So in that
how
aspect,
likely would I be to go watch this as a stoner?
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah. Or would you still have a good time as a stoner going back? Like, would you recommend a stoner go back and watch these because they could find hilarity hidden in the
I really enjoyed myself, and it was a great time. It's surprisingly good.
That's the thing. It surprised me with how well it was,
and the animation wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was going into it thinking this is going to be terrible. The animation studio. I knocked the mic. The animation studio, who I know I didn't mention before, they've done quite a bit of other things. They're notable for doing like Care Bears. They did the animation for the Star Wars Holiday Special way back when, which is
probably something we shouldn't bring up about them.
They were probably coasting on that money for a little while.
That's hilarious.
But they also did the Adventures of Tintin and they're the ones who also animated Little Bear, which I know came up earlier. It's another like kids educational program.
But nothing on Franklin. That's crazy because
Maybe I don't know.
I always connected those two. I don't know why. I don't know if they actually meet in the books before, but for some reason I always connected Franklin and Little Bear.
Yeah, I guess they're similar in a lot of ways, but
well, I'm pretty sure Franklin's best friend is a little bear.
Oh my God, it's all too convenient.
It's all connected, man.
So I mean, like, the animation wasn't as bad, especially like during the opening, and that opening is a bop every time. You know, I can't believe, like, remember going back and watching. I'm like, man, what a great opening this is.
Take a left at your intestines, dude. It goes ham. You won't
I
be
assume
able to
this
know.
is the part where you're gonna play the
No,
opening again, and we're gonna.
yeah, I'll play it again.
Wait, he's playing it right now, and this is me dancing to it. Ready?
Magic school bus. Like, it's so crazy that she brings them on these life or death situations daily.
I remember being a kid being like, wow, they go on so many field trips.
That's Dom DeLuise. Oh, yeah.
But the problem with Magic School Bus is that the episodes are really long. Mm-hmm. And after like 2 episodes, I'm like, man, I've been here for 45 minutes watching Magic School Bus. 2 episodes, they fill it with a lot of kind of Carlos.
Oh, I love it. I like when they would like throw you for a loop and someone else would say the bad joke, and so like instead they would be like Dorothy Ann, and you're like, that's too long of a name to be doing that for. You're gonna be like Dorothy Ann.
So yeah, you'd want to go back and watch it for a couple episodes, I'd say. So
yeah,
I guess then I'd give Magic School Bus about a B.
I would, yeah. You know what? And I'm gonna lowball it. I'll probably go B- with it. But again, I'm impressed with it. Like, don't get me wrong with don't shoot me emails.
If I were to look at it as a kids show and say how much would I recommend this as a kids show for your kids?
Yes.
A. Like A+.
plus. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, this show is fantastic. Like, if you're talking about me, like, or my buddies, you know,
it's beautiful. There's no racial stereotypes. They, you know what I mean? Like, each of their diverse characters, I feel like they don't.
Yeah, and they're good characters.
Yep, they're very good characters.
I wouldn't go B-. I would go B, because even as a stoner, it is a fascinating show. It is.
You're right.
Not
all right,
bad animation.
I can hike that minus up to a regular B.
Yeah, like,
but not a plus.
I do recommend you go check out an episode. Just to see how nifty it is. And
the first season's located on Netflix.
Yeah,
but you can find most of the season episodes just free on YouTube.
We're gonna go into favorites in a second, but if you're gonna pick that first season, I recommend you go to the episode All Dried Up, which is episode, I think, like 6 or something. That they're, the order it depends on where you look, because they rearranged the show apparently.
Oh yeah. Well, because we were looking into the fan theory.
I have it as episode 7, All Dried Up. That's the one where they go to the desert, where I was talking about.
I'm pretty sure that's what the Netflix had it as, was number 7. I only went and watched season 1, so all the episodes I picked are from season 1, and I tried not to make them in a row, but 2 of them are back to back. I will start off where I'm gonna say just watch episode 1. It's episode 1, season 1, gets lost in space. It's a banger. I mean, it's your introduction to the kids. It's your introduction to Miss Frizzle, and they go to fucking outer space right off the get. Now the story is, Arnold had been running his fucking mouth, and we'll deal with him in a second, but he was running his mouth to his cousin, who just decided to take the day off of school and not go to her school. So she went to her cousin's school, and went to go hang out with her cousin's class just to tell the kids how much better her school is. And throughout the entire, what's her name, Janice? And the entire time, they're like, okay, yeah, all right. And, they're doing a project about outer space and the planets. And Miss Frizzle, all her field trips have to do with some kind of class report, whether it's their class or some other class that they make it seem like they have more classes. I don't know how their school operates, but when I was in the fourth and fifth grade, I had one teacher for all subjects. Unless it was like music or something, they would bring somebody, special in to like teach us the music or art class. It seems like only 8 students. It was a cool thing. So Kelsey likes to point out about how like there's only 8 students and how easy that would be. And in the books, she has a normal class of 20 students. And like these kids are in there, but the animators were like, we're not animating.
It was a smart decision.
It was a very
smart decision. They didn't have resources to voice everybody, and they decided they didn't want just background characters.
And it made when somebody like when Janice was in the bus with them, it was almost like a special thing because they had that one extra person in there with them.
It was a good decision not to have all those kids.
But so for the episode, they go up into the bus turns into a spaceship. They're learning about all the planets and each planet, which one's like the first planet from the sun, the second planet from the sun, third planet from the sun, fourth, fifth, so on and so forth. Miss Frizzle gets ejected from the school bus.
Keep your claw on that button, Liz. Up, and away!
Bad news. Janet, we're not only lost in space, we're lost in space without a teacher.
She's not panicking. She's Miss Frizzle. She's the Frizz, right? She's cool. She's cool as outer space. Floats out there. Basically, hits up this bus and was like, all right, guys, figure it out. Come get me, but take your time. Be chill about it.
Yeah.
And the only one that could help them is Arnold's cousin, who has been a shit the entire episode. Every planet they went to, she was trying to steal some form of evidence to come back and show the kids at her school, like just about the crazy field trip that she just went on. She ends up overfilling the bus full of actually they called them radioactive rocks. So she was definitely about to kill all the people, all the kids in the bus.
And this is part of what leads to Nick's conspiracy theory about the duplicate kids.
Yeah, there's a very unique YouTube video. I'll post the video on the Facebook page if anyone wants to go. It's not my theory. I just really like this guy who comes up with these cartoon theories and how detailed he goes into it. It's I'll post it on the Facebook page. Definitely go check it out. But my big thing with this episode is at the very end of the episode, they're on Pluto. They just finally found Miss Frizzle. Janice actually had to help them because half their map was cut off, and she had memorized the rest of the planets essentially. And they're on the planet. She refuses to leave Pluto unless she has the her stuff with her to prove that she went on here. And Arnold's like, you know what, you want proof? You want to see what happens if you stay here? And this motherfucker, I'll play the voice clip.
Janet, you want proof? I'll give you proof. Here's proof of what'll happen to you if you stay here with your stuff. Arnold, no! Oh, guys!
Literally lifts his helmet off. And I remember I had just sat there and I I was feeling pretty good. So I was sitting there and this motherfucker just
He didn't expect to see death today.
and even the other kids that were there panicked for a second.
His head turns into an ice cube. He died instantly.
Completely icified. That's it. Death. Miss Frizzle. Blood on your hands. Not the first time.
Except not.
Just kidding. They scoop him up, bring him into the magic school bus, which de-ice him, and all he has from being in the vast of space is a little nasty cold sitting in the back of the bus going achoo with a little planky on himself. But it was funny because like the other kids were panicked too. So clearly in that universe, they know that if you take your helmet off, you're not gonna survive.
And I'll add that this was the producer bit at the end. They
Yes.
did. Kid called in at the end of this episode during the producer bit and is like, "Hey, if he took his helmet off, he would be dead."
Yeah.
They didn't use those words. 'Cause,
No, yeah.
obviously it was weird,
You know,
but-
the producer
they're
cut him off and
saying,
was
yeah,
like
he would-
an
he would
ice
be
cube.
dead.
Yeah. It's that. It was just. It's a good episode, funny episode. You have a character you could love to hate, and it's nice for that character not be Arnold, because usually Arnold's the character I love to hate. I'm like everything he says. I'm like, Arnold, shut the fuck up, bro. Stop being such a little pussy all the time.
No, and I don't know. He's definitely made to be that character.
He does
that,
stand
like,
up to his cousin at one point.
Well, no, yeah, Arnold is expected to be that character.
Mhm.
Like he's that character who's like the teacher's pet.
Yes.
And like everybody in the classroom knows it, except it's just like it's still everybody's so nice to him, and he like redeems himself many times throughout
Yeah.
the series.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah.
a good he's a good and cool kid, you know.
Yeah.
And even when he's being the teacher's pet, like in one of my favorite episodes, where Keisha is accusing Miss Frizzle of stealing her pickle. Arnold plays her defense lawyer. you
Oh,
know?
does he?
Yeah. Where
You-
he's like,
You said it was
"I'm gonna-"
Keisha?
Well, yeah, it was Keisha who was. And so they're having their little courtroom debate, you know, and he's, you know, naturally as the teacher's pet, he's going to be the teacher's defense lawyer, and he's going to come to her side. But in this case, it was like, oh, how, you know, he's, you know, you don't hate Arnold for this.
No.
Like,
I actually gained episode 1. You know, Janice is being a little shit, and she's like, "Well, my teacher is better." And then like music cuts, like he puts on this serious face. We watched this episode together, and he just looks at his cousin, and he's like, "Nobody is better than the Frizz." And I was like, oh shit, all right, Arnold, I feel you, buddy.
Some field trip, Arnold. You know what? My teacher would have called ahead because my teacher plans ahead. My teacher never makes mistakes. My teacher is a zillion times better than
Nobody is better than Ms. Frizzle.
Oh, yeah? Prove it. Stop the bus!
dude.
My next episode I'm gonna recommend, and then we can go into your.
Well,
did you recommend one yet, or
I
did
have
you
not
just get?
recommended one, but before we move on from this episode, I kind of
Mhm.
want to ask: what is there anything in particular that you learned in this episode? Maybe that you found interesting. In these episodes, I watched them. I don't know about Nick, but I watched them as a kid, so I like actually learned some things from these episodes.
I would say, even looking back, was finding out the radiation on the rocks that they stole from. I can't remember if it was Jupiter or Uranus, but that's the one
interesting.
that I was telling you about. That like, if she had brought those rocks onto the bus, they just stated how
Right.
bad the radiation was.
That's interesting.
And I didn't realize that the radiation was like that. So that's cool, and I'd like to believe that that's them doing their research.
The first episode is good. My favorite episodes are probably all of the episodes where, the bus helps them like turn into something or become something, because
Yes.
kids are very tactile learners,
Mhm.
and I know for a fact that like
being involved in it better than just. I mean, technically, it became the rocket ship but I get what you mean. You're talking about when they become like a
Yeah.
frog or like an insect,
or even just become water molecules. Like,
Oh.
it's like that's interesting stuff.
or
you
when
know?
the bus just shoots you into salmon eggs, and then the salmon comes and jizzes all over you.
Yeah, which is another episode. Yeah, another episode in season 1. I guess my recommendation, I already said it, was All Dried Up, the one where they go to the desert.
Great episode.
Phoebe they're doing a presentation on desert animals, and Phoebe is sad because I think Carlos convinces her that their animals can't really survive in the desert, and she wants to go to the desert to help all the animals. And they go there and slowly learn that, these animals have adapted to live in the desert and how they've adapted, and kind of how the desert cycle works in terms of like where the water comes from and how it stores the water.
Almost to a point that it was like really that no matter what, she was dead set on helping these animals, and they had to like really explain that like, no, you helping these animals is actually going to hurt these animals because they've adapted to these new situations. You want to bring them out of their natural habitat now, and you want to bring them home to go keep that lizard in your like aquarium that you're gonna have in like this little box. And they're like, that's not how this is supposed. Like, they've adapted to the heat. They're fine. The cactus has the water stored inside for the bird to come peck the cactus.
Did
and
they
get
say
the water.
something like that about like bringing it back and putting it in a box, or is that like an extrapolation?
No, I'm pretty sure she wanted to. To an extent, and it's an extrapolation. But I think she did want to bring.
Yeah, she wanted to bring him home.
One of the animals. I want to say it was the lizard. She was like, I want to bring that home so I could protect it.
And they were like, no, that's a wild animal.
Yeah,
Put it down. Miss Bristle's like, come on. leave that animal alone.
Yeah, a very good episode.
But hear me out. Okay, Carlos, I'm listening. These animals didn't need your protection from being eaten or from burning up in the sun, right?
Right?
They can cope, right?
Right.
Well, maybe they don't need your water either.
Carlos, how can you say that? You know there's no water in the desert. You said so yourself. Rain shadow, remember?
But look at them. They couldn't live without water, and they are definitely alive. They must get it somehow.
Okay then, if you're so smart, tell me how. Come on, Carlos. Take chances. Get messy. Make mistakes.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go a couple episodes right after it. My second choice is gonna be season 1, episode 9. Get ready, set, dough. I love this episode. This is the episode where the class goes to the bakery. It's Miss Frizzle's birthday, and the class wants to surprise Miss Frizzle by getting her a cake. Somehow, some way, they end up in the cake as it's being baked alive. and they try and keep Miss Frizzle away from the cake being made. My favorite thing is that the baker that's there is Dom DeLuise, who I talked about earlier. I've been a fan of him. My dad's been a fan of him. You guys might know. Our younger fans might know his son played the father on Wizard of Waverly Place. If you've ever seen that show.
I have not.
Okay. It was like Selena Gomez's like thing that made her famous. She's
in that new show, Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah. I've been meaning to get around to it. But so to get back into it, yeah. So the class wants to secretly make this cake. They end up, shrinking down. They're learning the process of how to make a cake and the process of yeast rising and putting things in the oven. And it's funny. Miss Frizzle does get separated from them. They lied to her, told her like go next door to get like a phone or something. She had to go grab something in particular from next door. And so she does. So the kids end up getting stuck in the oven. They're being cooked alive. Luckily, they're in the magic school bus, so they're not dying. But you know what blew my mind is Miss Frizzle's not in the magic school bus. And she just had like a suit at the ready. And they're in the cake baking. And they look off in the horizon of the cake. And somehow Miss Frizzle had gotten in the oven and was walking to them in the cake that was made for her to be like, I'm Miss Frizzle, I'm God. Like, it made no sense. Where was she stashing this, like, heat hazard suit? And how is she not dying from the increasing temperature of baking a cake? But it was cool to learn as a person who has his culinary degree, and I learned both baking and culinary for so long. It was just cool seeing an episode dedicated to that kind of stuff, learning all the different processes. And I was like, oh, I did that.
Yeah, and I have a couple other episodes in season 2 as well. I will say these episodes are not like favorites of mine. These are the episodes that I remember from a kid that have parts that live rent-free in my brain.
Yes. Yep.
So these are the ones that are particularly like, oh, I remember that episode of Magic School Bus. I went back and I deliberately watched those episodes first. And that's that old dried up episode from season 1. That was one of them. I remember that well. The next one is an episode of season 2, episode 6, Wet All Over, which is about the water cycle, and rain and where the water goes, how it evaporates. And
yes, I almost picked that. Episode.
Yeah, so they go through the whole thing, and a part of I'm a civil engineer, so part of what I've studied in school is water resources and water. Water resources, water.
This is when Ralphie wanted to be
water treatment, the water
weatherman,
cycle,
right?
That.
Is that episode when Ralphie wanted to be weatherman, and they go up and they learn about how like the storm creates snow that becomes the rain that goes down and then evaporates.
They go up, and I don't remember Ralphie wanted to be the weatherman. Maybe that was a part of it.
It was like a huge part of it. It
Okay.
was like it was like the subplot. The entire episode was like Ralphie wanted to be his own superhero weatherman, and he was trying to make lightning happen. And Keisha kept telling him like, "You're not actually weatherman. You can't control the weather or anything."
No,
I
think in this episode.
Oh, you said this was season 2, the one that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, they have another one like that in season 1.
Yeah, what they do is they become water,
Mm.
and so they're all water and they're flowing, and you kind of look at them evaporate and rise into the sky, and then they start as water like in a glass. And then they evaporate, and then they rise up, and then they condense in the sky, and they become clouds, and then they rain, and they fall again, and then they hit the ground, and they say they can't control, the direction they're going. They can only go one way, which is down. So their routes are predefined, and they go like, and then they slowly make their way down to the lowest point again, and then they continue and then they go into the ocean, into the ground, into the ocean, and then they go up again. And then they keep going, and then like, oh no, if we're stuck, we're gonna be here forever. There's no way to get back. So that by itself is a really cool thing. I remember it well, and what I really love about the episode is then to get back, they decide to rain into the reservoir deliberately so that they can go into the drinking water system for their town, And so they drop into the reservoir, and then they go through the whole. They drop into the reservoir, and then they go through the whole water treatment process, and they even like talk about introducing like in water treatment. So this episode's really neat to me because I studied some of this stuff in school.
Yeah, well, to essentially, it's your get ready, set, go, because I studied all that in school. So to me, that was a unique thing.
It was cool seeing them introduce parts of the water treatment, like putting in sedimentation things to help the waters, like sedimentation of things in the water so that they can filter that way before they get directly filtered. And then they go through the pipes all the way down to where they enter the school through the pipes,
It's funny that they did that again, because there was that episode. Oh, it was the last episode of season 1, and I had mentioned it earlier, where they did the exact same thing. They were learning about weather. And how like the evaporation of water goes up into the clouds, and then the clouds condenses, turns the water basically into ice particles, which then melt on their way from falling down up in the sky and become rain. But they're stuck in the raindrops. So shame on Miss Frizzle for making the same mistake twice. That they
we all know this is a game to her.
So for my final episode that I'm going to recommend for you guys.
I have another episode in season 2, though. I have a couple other episodes in season 2, so I'll let you go ahead and say something.
Okay.
there are quite a few episodes with parts that I remember. And
all right,
I'll
let
be
me
brief.
because like I said, all mine are in season 1. So let me bang this one out anyways. I had mentioned it earlier in the episode. It goes to Seed. This episode was honestly, it had me dying. First of all, you get to see the famous former school that Phoebe mentions every fucking 2 seconds in every goddamn episode. Oh, at my old school, we didn't do this. Oh, at my old school, we didn't do this. So, like I'd mentioned, they were going to be the entire class, Miss Frizzle. Their garden was going to be on the cover of Planet magazine. And Ralphie cocked up in everyone's idea that they were going to get really rich and famous from this. They're like, we're going to be on a magazine cover. That's it. We're rolling in the money. That's it for us, baby. But the only problem is they didn't fucking grow the flower they needed. I think they did have other things grown, but the flower was supposed to be like the big centerpiece that they didn't have. So Phoebe had planted that with her former teacher at her old school. So they had a version. So they shrunk down the new. Phoebe was a mess. She didn't want to go to her new school. She was super embarrassed. She's like, at my old school, we didn't do stuff like this at my old school. I don't know how the thing. Like, clearly she just was embarrassed. They go to her old flower. They shrink down. They learn about pollination, the bees coming, vibrating, getting all the pollen all over their fur and everything, the whatever you want to call it. They learn about like the seeds growing from little seedlings and how getting bigger. Come to find out that the letter that Phoebe had wrote in her old teacher, Mr. Seedplot. I know. Seedplot, the gardening teacher. Great stuff here. He reads it as they're shrunken down, hiding in the flower. And then, Phoebe's panicking because she's like, oh my God, there's Mr. Seedplot. Hey, Miss Frizzle, I know you like to shrink down even further than what we always shrink down into. Can we shrink again? And Miss Frizzle's like, yo, bet. And so they shrink down even further. And Mr. Seedplot's sitting there and he's like, oh man, I almost missed this. So he starts ripping up their flower. Little do you know that the people are coming to take a photo, so the bus has limited time. They steal a couple seeds. They make it back all the way to the normal school. They plant the seeds. The bus has time travel powers, so it like basically shocks the seeds into growing into a full plant. And the bus shows up. Everyone's back to normal size. Mr. Seedplot had been on his bicycle riding with the flower in the basket to the school. Shows up. Now this is the big moment. There's Phoebe in between her old teacher, Mr. Seedplot, and the new teacher, Miss Frizzle. She goes over and she's like, Mr. Seedplot, I want to introduce you to my new teacher. She's like all shy about it. And then immediately Miss Frizzle's like, I think his name was Arthur. And she's like, yeah, Arginold. I think it's Arginold. She goes, hey, Arginold. And he goes,
nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Archibald.
You mean you know each other?
Sure. I'm one of Miss Frizzle's biggest fans.
Or no, whatever Miss Frizzle's name is. But Phoebe looks at Miss Frizzle. Yeah. Miss Frizzle looks at her and looks at the teacher. And it's like, there's this weird, like, they definitely fucked. They were boning. And because they were giving each other this look. And Phoebe didn't know what the hell was going on. Now, mind you, during the producer says segment, they bring Seedplot in instead of one of the producers there. And one of the kids on the phone asks, hey, does Miss Frizzle have a boyfriend? And he's like, well,
Flowering Metapicus.
Give me a break. There's no such plant.
Okay, you're right. Phoebe's flower was invented for the show, but it's very similar to lots of real flowers.
But one last question.
That's what I'm here for.
Does Miss Frizzle have a boyfriend?
Oh, well,
And I'm like, those motherfuckers were fucking. And Phoebe was nervous about getting them together the whole time. But yeah, that was my final episode. So I'll let you take the reign
C-Plot foisted Phoebe on Miss Frizzle because he knew Miss Frizzle could take it, but he really didn't want to deal with her anymore.
Yeah, he was like, because what would she's got to have complained about something at her old school. At my new school, I bet they're not going to have gardening day. And we're like, little do you know, you dumb bitch. You're going to be the garden.
Yeah, a couple episodes I just want to mention and just scenes from them, you know. So season 2, I probably maybe, and I've mentioned this already in the episode, my favorite episode is season 2, episode 7, In a Pickle. And in this episode, for one, you find out, it's funny sometimes throughout the show, Miss Frizzle will open her closet and you're like, what's she doing in her closet? What's in her closet?
Yes.
And you go in there and it's just something weird. She's playing on a pinball machine.
Yeah. Her classroom's great.
It's full of pickles.
Yeah.
And barrels of pickles.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pickle storeroom.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
In this episode, this is a Keisha episode 2 where she's missing her cucumber. And she doesn't know what happened to it. All there is this jar with this pickle in it. Where's her cucumber? What happened to it?
Which one of you flat-foots?
She accuses Miss Frizzle. She is stealing her pickle, and Miss Frizzle's like, "No, it wasn't me. It was
you dumb bitch."
And in that episode, they just kind of shrink down, and you get to see microbes. It's really cool. They go really, really small and then even smaller, and you see how there's mold on everything. And in the pickle, you see how there are good organisms and bad organisms, and the ones that are fermenting it and changing it into a pickle. And
we might need to watch this episode before you leave, honestly, because this
it's a cool episode.
I want to watch it.
And Arnold is at Miss Frizzle's defense. He's like, an objection.
He plays the lawyer.
He's her defense lawyer the entire time. It's a really good episode.
Court is now in session. The case of the missing cucumber. Keisha versus Ms. Frizzle. The Honorable Judge Liz Ard presiding. Yours truly speaking on behalf of the court. Keisha, do you have an opening statement? I do. I intend to prove that Ms. Frizzle not only took my prize-winning cucumber, but also that she did not turn it into a pickle.
Oh, bravo, Keisha. I intend to prove the same thing.
I do recommend go watch that episode.
It's unique that you pointed out the aspect that Arnold is a teacher's pet, because I hadn't actually put that together, because I had always pictured him as the polar opposite of Frizzle and what she wanted to do.
Yeah, he is a little weakling.
Yeah,
and
that's his niche.
Sometimes he steps up and he's not a weakling, though.
So you can rely on him when the going gets tough, which is respectable.
Yeah.
But half the time he's just annoying as fuck.
Another episode in season 2 that I would like to mention is the episode where you learn how a car works, and the magic school bus is breaking down, and the mechanic goes and is eating a peanut butter sandwich. And anyway, I'm not going to get into the mechanic, but they go through the bus and you learn how a car works. They go into the bus and you learn how the bus works, and it's a really neat episode. And then in the end, you find out that this motherfucker put his peanut butter sandwich on the engine, and peanut butter got all up in that engine and made it so that it broke down.
Oh, what a douchebag, dude. I love when Miss Frizzle randomly, because the bus has a few things go wrong with it in a couple of different episodes, and Miss Frizzle will become the mechanic herself and just pop the hood and start looking in there, and then she starts she'll either pull things out or just she'll be like, "We need the Thorpeldorpeldorf," and you're like, "What the fuck is that?" She just starts listing the most outrageous parts for the magic school bus. Those always get me. I always think those are funny.
Another episode, moving on to season 3. I have a few episodes in season 3. The first is season 3, episode 3, where the magic school bus turns into a spider. And
do you have the name of the episode?
Magic school bus spins a web.
Okay, cool.
And they turn into a spider, and you see the you see three different ways that spiders catch their prey. So it's, we all know the one where they spin a web and then use that web as a net to catch flying insects. But you also get to see the ones that create the little trapdoors.
Oh yeah,
and the ones that actually just hang and grab their prey. As it goes by.
I remember watching this episode back in the day.
There you go. Here we go. We found one.
And
we found one that in Nick's memory finally.
Unlocked. But I remember this one because they talk about the trapdoor spider.
Yeah.
And that freaked the ever-living shit out of me.
You were thinking there are trapdoor spiders.
I didn't think those existed in the world until I watched the fucking Magic
You probably had
School
no
Bus.
sense of scale. And you were thinking that they were actually like these big trapdoors in the ground.
Like, these things could have fucking, there's a hole underground there? The fuck?
What if I fall into the hole?
It's funny because I have zero fears of spiders now. I can kill spiders with my bare hands whenever they're annoying, especially because a lot of them, as a mailman, a lot of them hang out in my truck. So as I'm driving, I have a lot fall in front of my face. I'm just so used to like crushing them and throwing them or smacking them like off my neck or smacking them off my head.
It's horrible that your job involves so many spiders.
Santi, and fans of the show know Santi. Santi has a death fear of spiders. And so, of course, I fuck with them all the time. And I can't wait to show him a picture of this trapdoor spider from the Magic School Bus, because I'm going to definitely watch that episode, too, and just be like, hey, I do it all the time. I'll just send him pictures or videos of spiders. He's like, I heard you.
The next episode is Gets a Bright Idea. Again, these are all episodes that I remember from a kid, and I've learned things from them. Like in a pickle, I definitely learned how pickles are made from that.
Yeah.
The bus one, all my knowledge of cars comes from. I don't know anything.
You didn't
about
know,
cars.
yeah? They didn't.
I know
what,
very
what
little.
is
about
college?
cars.
Even college plays the Magic School Bus. All right, learn this. You're good.
Next episode I would want to talk about is season 3, episode 5. I Gets a Bright Idea.
Yes.
That one, they're like in a theater, and it's our Return of Arnold's cousin.
Oh, I was hoping you were gonna bring back, because you had mentioned she comes back, and I think she comes back again. Like I think she's like has a few different episodes.
Yeah, she comes back, and essentially she's in the theater, and she takes Arnold and forces him to turn on his fellow classmates, and because
she has no chill.
Yeah.
You would think that she would have lost her lesson in outer space, but nope.
She invites them all out there, and then steals Arnold and forces him to turn on his classmates and become like a fake ghost. She tries scaring them with like projections of light, and they slowly with Miss Frizzle dismantle like everything she's doing, which is like
a brilliant thing for a kid to do. Imagine being like in the 5th grade and someone's like, hey, let's go scare these kids with the projection.
This is another Keisha episode where Keisha's like this motherfucking bitch. Like, here, I'm gonna.
You don't know me.
Keisha's not having any of that shit like in this episode.
We don't put up with any of that shit.
Next episode is also light related. Season 3, episode 7, Makes a Rainbow. This is the one where they go into Miss Frizzle's closet and see that she is in
pinball machine. That's definitely, that's fucking great.
So she plays it with a pinball machine that kind of splits light into the different colors. There's not much to say here, but this is the one with the principal who really wants the pinball machine, apparently. And if Miss Frizzle doesn't beat it, he gets to take it.
That's great. I didn't realize the principal was a reoccurring character like that, too.
Principal does come in. It's just a neat episode. I learned about the different colors in the rainbow.
Yeah.
I mean, not in the rainbow, the different light and how they work, and how when light shines on something, what makes you see that color in that thing.
Yeah.
Things like that. Just very simple.
Stuff. Like we said, literally a bunch of just really interesting things. Like the show in itself is goofy, but then the things that they go into are actually like, you're like, damn, I'm actually learning something. Like, this is kind of cool. I mean, I wish it was a little more punchy. That's just me personally, but it's cool.
Moving on to season 4. There are a few episodes again in season 4 that I remember so well. The first one being the first episode of season 4. Magic School Bus meets Molly Kuehl. In this one, they are washing her, a famous pop star who's played by a famous pop star, and I can't remember, a country star. I don't remember.
It must have been Dolly Parton.
No, it's not Dolly Parton. I can tell you that. Dolly Parton may have been in it, but I don't think that was Dolly Parton. Here, I'll look it up.
I have them all right here listed. Was it Susan Blue?
Magic School Bus Molly Kuehl. They go and they meet a famous pop star who's played by a famous pop star that Nick already mentioned earlier, Wynonna Judd.
Mm-hmm.
And they're washing this pop star's car because she's like, okay, I'll have these kids wash my car. And then they drop her ornament. She's like, do not do anything to my ornament. And they drop it into a bucket of water and it dissolves because she has an ornament made of sugar for some reason. And so they need to shrink down and see the water molecules and like how it dismantled the sugar and dissolved it, and then they start manually putting it back together.
That's
like,
fucking hilarious. That just Miss Frizzle looked at that situation and was like, wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
All right, hop in.
Yeah, we're gonna put it back together.
My favorite one of the I'm trying to think what it was. It might have been the Rotten episode, or I think it was the Ants episode in season 1, where they wanted to be taken by the ants into the anthill. And so the car becomes a form of like sugar that attracts the ants. And the ants come and they pick up the bus, which has all the kids in it, and starts taking away. And you see all the kids like leaning out and like basically ripping chunks of the bus off and eating it as they're being taken on the ground. And I was like, that's like, I don't want to call it cannibalistic, but like that bus has to feel that they're eating him alive. So no loyalty to the Magic School Bus. In fact, I feel like Miss Frizzle's the only one who consistently thanks the Magic School Bus for everything the bus does.
It's a neat pet. Kids don't see the true power in the Magic School Bus.
Yeah. I was going to say a lot of cool fan theories out there. There's a doppelganger one, which I'd mentioned I'll put on Facebook. There's the fan theory that Miss Frizzle is indeed a Time Lord and that the Magic School Bus is her TARDIS. For any of the Doctor Who fans out there, I don't
know. I watched some of that series. As I recall, it's not like Time Lords have TARDISes. That's just
no. He stole the TARDIS. Yeah. He stole it, but I guess they can have them. You know what I mean? And there's more than one TARDIS.
This
that
theory
has
is like there's another Time
Yeah,
Lord who
yeah,
also
yeah.
has a TARDIS.
It's just like let them be. It
would make more sense if Miss Frizzle was the Doctor.
Yeah.
And just a future Doctor.
Yeah.
Or,
she
another new
she's
form
been
of the
trained
Doctor.
in witchcraft.
And
I
the
read.
TARDIS, she got something working on the TARDIS, and now she can turn its illusion thing actually works now, and she can turn it into a school bus.
Because I think TARDISes in Doctor Who are supposed to be sentient. Just like this bus.
Yeah, it is.
Just
It has a heart, and like it yes,
it thinks and feels. Therefore, it is.
Yeah, but the primary thing being that its its camouflage thing is broken, so it can only look like a police box.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, on that note,
there are a couple other episodes that I must mention.
Oh, please do. Please do. If you got it, let's do it.
Another episode that I gotta mention, and this one has a fundamental scene that has always been with me my entire life, and it lives in my brain, is Magic School Bus cracks a yolk, where they are trying to replace the principal's prized chicken, And to do that, they go to a farm and get.
We watched this one
Yeah.
together with Kirsty, right?
Yeah. There's this scene that I always remembered where Phoebe has the egg, and she's like, "Oh, look, we found one," and is running towards Miss Frizzle and trips, and the egg just goes flying through the air.
I'll play
and
the
Miss
voice clip.
Miss Frizzle pulls out a frying pan and sticks it out, and the egg lands in the pan and cracks and breaks open. And then Phoebe gets up and is like, "Oh my God, no! Did I ruin the egg?" And Miss Frizzle just goes, "Well, that depends on how you like your eggs."
Someone catch it!
Don't worry, we have a plan.
Bullseye!
Whoops, I said plan, Liz, not pan.
Is the egg ruined?
Depends on how you like 'em. Still looks good enough to eat.
Ms. Frizzle, that egg was going to be Mr. Rule's new chick.
Was it? Anyone see any signs of a chick in here?
And you kind of learn that not, if it's an unfertilized egg, you don't have a bird in there.
It's weird
just an
because,
egg. And that's where I learned we're not eating baby chickens.
Yeah, but Arnold gets stuck in the egg, and they leave him in there. They're like, "There's nothing we can do. You have to stay in there until that hatches." And he's like, "All right." No, actually, that's not true. They do mention at one point, they're like, "All right, it's that certain point. Do you want to come out?" And he's like, "No, I want to watch."
Last episode that was notable was season 4, episode 6. The Magic School Bus goes cellular, and in that one, Arnold is giving a presentation because he's like the first kid to win an award in a society of rock enthusiasts. And he
fucking nerd.
Before he can go up to collect his award, he turns orange. You see him eating like his favorite snack, which is seaweedies. Which are these little fish crackers with they're seaweed wrapped, and they're like, "Oh, stop eating." He's like, "Oh, I can't," but they shrink down to go inside of him to see what's wrong with him. And
They go in Arnold again?
Again, yeah, no, they shrink down and they go, and you see that he's been eating a lot of keratin, and he gets keratinitis or whatever that is, and it turns his skin orange, which is something that can happen.
Yep.
Kind of absurd, but. And that's the whole episode. I don't know what it was such a goofy episode.
That's
I
amazing,
remember
though.
it
That's
so well.
the fact that they go. So there's in season 1 they go back to back into 2 different kids. They spend episode 2 inside Arnold the whole time, and then episode 3 they spend inside Ralphie.
They love to go inside those kids.
And in even in episode 4 they go inside another body. It's just not one of the kids. They go inside a fish's body. I'm like, is this some kind of sick thing Miss Frizzle's just into? Let's go and see the reproductive. My favorite thing is when they're inside. They've traveled throughout Arnold's throughout the whole way, and Miss Frizzle's like, "All right, you go down the large intestine, and now like we go," and everyone's like, "Nope, no, we don't." And they go and they press the button, and like all of a sudden the bus goes the opposite way and goes all the way back up the way it just came because they didn't want to come out the butt. It's just fucking hilarious to me.
It's not over yet.
We've done the mouth. We've done the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine. What could be next? The extra large intestine?
No, we just have to join the rest of the waste products and finish the trip.
What? Wait a minute. According to my research, the waste products go... Nuh-uh. No way. At my old school, we were never allowed to end up in the toilet.
Anyone have a better idea?
We could go back to the mouth and ride it again. Wanda!
Anything else any closing statements on the cartoon that you would like to give to the listeners?
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it was obviously like a show for little kids, and so adults might not find it as interesting. I'm sure so many people though remember it, and hopefully remember it fondly. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And I guess these shows I don't really need to recommend because the idea is that you've already seen these shows, hopefully. And,
yeah, this is more on a nostalgic kick than a hey,
so
learn this.
Yeah, no, I just remember the show fondly, and
Yeah, it's like I said, it really impressed me. It impressed me with what I was learning. It impressed me with how funny it could be at times, and just like The animation itself wasn't stiff animation. It was a very fluent type of animation, so I was impressed with the animation,
Yeah,
too.
the animation wasn't as bad as I would.
Yeah,
would've
remembered,
thought,
especially for a kid's like a little kid show in the 90s. So that being said, thank you guys, and remember the 3 golden rules.
Take chances. Make mistakes. Get dusty.
Field trip tip number 87. Not a problem.
Voiced by Stuart Stone. Stuart is also known for his role as Roland Fisher in the 2001 film Donnie Darko. He is also the voice of both main characters Carl Crashman and C2 in the 2005 Canadian animated series Carl Squared.
Did you just call him Roland? It's Ronald.
Did I call him Roland?
You said Roland, I think. Maybe I'm mishearing that.
Okay, just to be safe.
It's the guy. It's his friend. His friend in no, don't you go back cutting this to make yourself to sweep up your mistake, okay? We could both be wrong. Maybe it is Roland. I wrote it down as Ronald also. It looks like we both wrote it down as Ronald. It's going to turn out that you secretly knew that we both wrote it down wrong. And
I just like that you were like, no, you own your mistake. That's Kelsey's a big fan of that. That's what she tells her students, that she encourages mistakes. You know who else does it? Miss Frizzle.
Yeah.
Full circle, buddy. We just brought it back.